Hi, my name is Scott Anderson. I'm the managing editor of nextbillion.net. And I'm here today with Cynthia Koenig, who's the founder of Wello. And Cynthia is an entrepreneur, in addition to having an anthropology degree. And she spent the better part of a decade working and living in Southeast Asia, Central America, Southern Africa, where she became acutely aware of the struggles of many people in terms of gathering clean water and bringing it home. Cynthia launched Wello in 2011 with the goal of creating products and services that enable people to reliably access safe water and transport it. Welcome, Cynthia. Thanks for being here today.
Hi, Scott. Nice to be here.
I wanted to ask you, for those not familiar with Wello, what is its mission and what is the product that you've put together?
So Wello's mission is to produce disruptive innovations that alleviate the time, physical, and health burdens of water collection, and even more broadly, create opportunities to help families lift themselves out of poverty.
And so how does that come together with the water wheel? Tell us about the product.
So the water wheel is Wello's flagship product, and it's a 50-liter rolling container that moves water much more quickly, easily than traditional methods of water collection, which is 20 liters or 5 gallons carried on the head. Now, that 5 gallons weighs 44 pounds, so it's no small load to bear, and the physical implications of carrying heavy loads over time are pretty striking. It can lead to curvature of the spine and even death during childbirth. Compounding that is, of course, the fact that a lot of this water that's being carried by women and girls isn't safe to drink. So when you consider all of those impacts, they really serve to lock families in a cycle of poverty.
And you're on version 2.0 of the water wheel. Tell us about what went into prototyping this type of product and testing it in the field.
When we initially started prototyping, we started from scratch with the question of how can we improve the experience of water collection, storage, and use for primarily rural households in India. So our designer and myself started out by doing a Shad Yatra, which is essentially a learning journey. And we spent several weeks living in rural homestays, understanding the complexities of the water crisis and observing daily life. From there, it was a process of, experimenting with different ideas, different ways of moving water, and ultimately ended up at a rolling water tool, which is something that we had been open to at the start, but kind of stepped away from and then stepped back to when we found that there actually was interest from people and there was acceptance to roll water along the ground. So we roughly prototyped using existing containers, creating very rudimentary prototypes, and then from there went into developing a mold. So we're pretty much in that prototyping stage right now. We've distributed about 150 units and have identified some design changes that we made in the 2.5 version.
Oh, so you're on 2.5 now. Will you go into production at 3.0, do you think?
Absolutely. So the plan is to go into production with 2.5 in probably the next 6 to 8 weeks and do a large-scale rollout to evaluate social impact, get more user feedback, but ultimately the end goal is the 3.0 version, which we envision as being incredibly shipping efficient and offering additional functionality, things like water filtration, ability to interface with component devices like drip irrigation, and some other cool things like energy generation. Energy generation,
so you're looking at possibly solar or?
Capturing the energy used as the wheel is rolling
to
do lots of great things like water purification, potentially charging a cell phone. Sky's the limit.
Great. Most social entrepreneurs, obviously, they want to track their impact. They want to see what the products are doing over time. How has Wello approached that?
Our strategy towards collecting impact data has changed a lot as Wello has grown and as we've learned from the data we collected. We started out trying to document absolutely everything, and I think in the past 6 months, our approach has shifted from really rigorously doing interviews and collecting data and recording everything to taking a broader approach, because I think we were perhaps losing sight of the big picture. I'll give you one example. We were coming into the data collection process, we're really focused on women and girls because we believe this is who the product would have the biggest impact on. And that's certainly the case. But we didn't place as much emphasis on men who've turned out to be fantastic adopters of the product and really strong advocates for it in their communities. So we've since expanded as a result of doing more qualitative interviews and spending more time with the families. We've now expanded to include men in our data collection process and tried to keep a really wide lens on what's going on right now, because we find that people are using the water wheel for different purposes at different times of the year, in different contexts. Things that if we'd been so rigorously focused on ticking off boxes and collecting numbers, we might have missed.
But at the end of the day, you want to see things like the amount of time obviously spent gathering water, going way down with the water wheel, and what other sorts of baseline metrics are really important for Wello.
And so we're certainly looking at the number of hours spent on water collection. We're looking at indications that people's health is improving. So whether it's their physical health in terms of simply reporting less instances of back pain, less instances of illness, greater school attendance. That's one that's always really tough to monitor and track, but that's something that we're really curious about. Increased income. So one of the strategies we're employing is running really specific pilots to help us understand certain aspects. So for example, partnering with a school or with a community where the children are living really far from school and where chores like water collection are actively keeping them away from attending school on a daily basis, and then paying great attention to whether use of a water wheel is actually leading to greater instances of or greater attendance at school.
What's the price of the product that you're anticipating rolling out when you go into full production? And how will people finance that? How can you see that?
Sure, we're hoping that ultimately we get down to a price point of about 500, 600 rupees, which is around $10. And so far we're finding that when testing that price point, people are actually able and willing to pay for it. We have some creative strategies that we're deploying in the meanwhile, since our prototypes cost far more. Right. So we're really lucky to have a really supportive network of pilot partners who are helping us understand financing and also make it possible for us to distribute the prototype units.
I know that there are a lot of people who are interested in Wello, a lot of people who see that as a company that they would like to emulate as a social entrepreneur, maybe as students or grad students. What advice do you share with them if they're going to start a company that's serving the base of the pyramid, or even just a social enterprise here in the States?
The advice I would give is to start before you're ready, because if you wait until you're ready, you won't get as far. You may never get started because there's so much to learn. The learning curves are steep and there are a lot of them, and just when you get to the top you find that there's another one right behind it. So if you wait to immerse yourself in whatever academic field you're studying and be an expert in that and be an expert in all aspects of base of the pyramid business, your moment may pass you by.
You may never be quote unquote ready.
Yeah, just roll up your sleeves and dig in, and you'll learn a lot faster as a result.
Good advice. Well, thanks again for taking the time, Cynthia, and best of luck with the business.
Thanks for having me here.